I learned some stuff I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So I knew about the corridor.
Yeah,
but
the
I didn't know
I-20
that
corridor.
we was the only like route to go from south, north,
North
to
to
south.
south?
Yeah, I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
know
we're
I
going
always
from
do it.
north to south.
Yeah, when I go back to
Yeah.
southern, I always go that way. But I didn't think everybody had to.
That's right.
I
That's
guess
right.
that's why the traffic be so
Yeah.
hectic in Winsboro. There's
That's
always
right.
wrecks right there at the
Yeah,
intersection.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Because
makes a lot of
because
sense.
and that traffic is going down 60, going down to 61, and from 61 on down toward I-10 and I-10 49 and on down to from there to Lafayette and so forth and so on.
So
But we're a viable open market, but nobody wants to look at that. Nobody wants to pay attention to that, and that's where I come in. That's where I see opportunities for yourselves, because when you move here and you bring your children here and your children's children are here, you want them to have the access to all of the items and all of the things that these other towns like Shreveport, even though they may be small, I mean Winsboro may be small as compared to these areas. Do you believe, and I can tell you that in 2010 when I was on the city council, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, financially, Winsboro was as in good a shape as the city of Monroe, financially. After 2010, things started dwindling down. But I was on the council at that time, and I could see what was going on. And I could see that these things were happening. So in order for us to maintain, we should be much, much, much further ahead, financially and in looking at ourselves and being prepared for people like yourself. Right now, I'm not working for me. I'm working for the citizens of Winsboro, yes, but I'm making preparations for people like yourselves. Because you're the future of Winsboro, and your children are the future of the future. And how else can we make these things happen if we don't prepare the city to accept you? Don't get me to preach it. I get going.
No. It's a perfect time for it.
Go ahead.
And I think what we're looking at now is what's being called into question is the timetable of everything unfolding. I mean, especially with everything going on, the mayor candidates and everything like that. Right now we're in a runoff between you and Ms. Wallace.
Right.
And it's like, what would be the timetable of those things actually come to fruition? And then how would that change, or would it change if you were to exit out of office or anything like that?
Well, to answer your question again, it's a good question, because if I can get just 4 more years, that's the opportunity that I would like to have to bring Winsboro. We moved Winsboro up. Let me give you some examples. In 2018, when I took this office, and I came in as mayor, there was only 50% of the functioning budget that we could utilize to operate Winsboro. 50% of the functioning budget calls for about $2 million. But do you know the town this size actually takes and needs at least $4.5 to $5 million to operate on? So now, how does a man like myself come in, and when you find the creditors are all against you, when you find that that Winsboro is broke, when you find that your audits are looking at 29% deficiency as far as not meeting the requirements of the audits that are required in Baton Rouge, and everything is in a shamble, what do? Well, you take the bull by the horns. You don't give up, because if that was the case, then we would have had a physical administrator to come in here. Are you familiar with the physical administrator?
I'm not.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
A physical administrator is an individual who comes into a town and he looks the town over, and then he begins, and he has already been appointed by the governor to straighten the town up. Winsboro was in such a mess that a physical administrator was about to be sent here to straighten this town up. After 8 years of the previous administration, we found ourselves in a mess. Another example, and one that was very close to Winsboro, was also Sterlington. Sterlington had a new baseball complex that had just been built, and all it looked so good and everything was going, but instead, financially, they were going broke. Why would that happen? Well, because of mismanagement in some cases. Same thing that was happening in Winsboro. So they sent a physical administrator to Sterlington. Prepared. Now remember, I said they were preparing to send one to Winsboro. But they did send one to Sterlington. In doing so, then he was able to correct the problems that they had there. Now, it took a lot of cutting. It took a lot of chopping and moving things out of the way. People didn't like it. But he did so, and he got them back on their feet to a $600,000 mark. That's what their revenue, that's what they became. They actually got their revenue back up to $600,000. It cost them, though. It cost them $100,000 for that physical administrator to come in there and to do that. That's what he charged them. Now, in Winsboro, we were at the same and at the brink of the very same thing happening. A physical administrator was preparing to come in here. I had to go to Baton Rouge 2 days after I became mayor and meet with the legislative auditors. A room full of guys on just like a large table, and sitting there and talking to them. And the final question that they asked me was, John Dumas, why do you want to take on a mess like this? And the best answer that I could give them, and the only answer that I knew to give them, was to tell them that, look, if a man messed it up, it could take a man to fix it. Just give me a chance. Yeah. So in the process of coming in, they gave me that opportunity, and that $100,000 that Sterlington paid to their physical administrator for coming in, guess what? Winsboro utilized that because we didn't need a physical administrator. It was done by this administration. We came from the bottom, from the very bottom, where people were not even wanting to give us or loan us money in order to operate on. Remember, I said $2.5 million. You did. Wow. Now, and that wasn't enough to operate, but we needed at least $4 million. I had to turn around and borrow $1 million from our trust fund in order to pay the bills. And since then, we came from, and I told you, Sterlington came up to $600,000, right? Mm-hmm. Winsboro came up to $487,000 without a physical administrator. So you tell me, which one made the best choice? Winsboro did. Mm-hmm. And Winsboro has been doing so. So to go back to your question, would I want to see Winsboro go backwards instead of going forward? Instead of moving up the ladder to reach, the $500,000 or $600,000 mark without a physical administrator? Yes, that's what I want to see. And I want to show people that it can happen. My first 4 years in here was cleaning up somebody else's mess. But I wanted to let them know, now give me 4 years to let you see what John Dumas can do with his own 4 years and with his own outlook and with his own vision, and show you what it's going to take in order to prepare Winsboro for people like yourselves. Because without doing that and giving it back to people that had it messed up before, is not going to get you on the right track. I'm talking about Winsboro, 2 years in a row, has had an audit from the legislative auditor's office that showed zero findings, zero discrepancies, zero mistakes. That don't happen very often, but it has happened in Winsboro. Okay. And that's because of hard work. But in order for me to leave something for you to work with, something for you to make the best for your children and to make your best better, I've got to give you something to deal with. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that I want to do. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what I'm working so hard to get back, and desperately to get back in this office in order to finish what I started.